So, welcome everyone. Once again, we are back with yet another episode, and today we have a personality with us, Blaze Alfonso. He is a person who is a learning profession, and he's worked around over 18 years of experience in his corporate world. He's worked around with some of the organizations to be named as Amazon, Geo, Accenture. In his career, he's doomed in various roles such as training and development, operations, content development, performance management, client management, vendor management. The majority of experience is enabling new hires and to learn and implement skills in their job roles. So basically, he has a lot to share with us, guys. And all the students requested to please make sure that you have notepad, pens, and paper ready to you because this guy is seriously amazing when it comes to communication. So welcome once again, please.
Give it up for Atul Shinde.
Perfect. So we'll start off with this question. The first set of questions that we have prepared for you is: can you just tell me, more about your background related to communication and what actually motivated you to get into this career?
Right. So like you said, right, I have around 18 years of experience in the corporate field. Majority has been in training and development, right? In training and development, I've done various roles, VNA training, which is voice and accent, process training, instructional designing, which is one of the upcoming fields for us, and performance management, like how to improve performance for their business teams and all that stuff. So that's where I've been involved majority of the time, so for 16, 17 years, right? How did I start in this? Like anyone else who's an aspiring graduate, I wanted to earn some money, right? And that's how I kind of got into it. When I got into my first contact center, as how we would call it back then, I kind of looked at getting into quality, and that was like the team to kind of be in. It was through pure hapstance or whatever you want to call it, destiny, that I got selected for training in one of the internal postings, right, that kind of came through. And as I stepped into training, I just loved it, right? I just loved the fact that I could interact with a lot of people, right? You and I are from the same college, so you know that we speak a lot with friends, and you have that that break time, you have that informal conversation, some intellectual conversations also, right? So you started to have this kind of conversations with a lot of folks, and that kind of motivated me to kind of be there, right? More importantly, what I started to notice is, as a trainer, I started to impact a lot of lives, right? It's my small ways, and what that did is, after 4 or 5 years, after you train someone for around a period of 1 month, they recognize you and they're like, oh, you trained me, do you remember me? And now I'm a XYZ in a certain company, and that kind of feels good, right? And so it was not just making money, but it was also fulfilling for me as a person, right? Also, it gave me a lot of opportunities to help young professionals to kind of build their career. I was young, so obviously I was mentoring my people, my friends and colleagues and peers at that point in time. As I grew in my career, it was more about helping them grow up the learning ladder, and that kind of was extremely fulfilling, right? Along with whatever you achieve, this was one of the main things that kind of made things, making it worthwhile for me kind of continue this role.
Great, excellent. Actually, me and Blaze belong to the same college. We went to St. Xavier's at the same time, and it was a journey to remember for. And most of my stories in my profile, I've mentioned you as an individual that helped me out to come out of the situation that I was facing into. So there was a lot of things happened with us as well, and some other time I'll discuss on the same. But to the whole perspective of communication, as as you discussed. So, have you ever faced any of sort of challenging situations related to communication, and how did you handle those, and what did you learn from those experiences?
Of course, I did, and I had a lot of these instances when I was starting my career off, right? When we are young, we are not very polished. We'd speak our mind out, right? And we call it being straightforward. Ideally, it's being blunt in the corporate environment, right? But being blunt and being straightforward are two different things, right? What we end up doing is, as young folks when we were younger, we would just be blunt and we just say what we wanted to say and be like, that's okay, I'm speaking my mind out. It's like, usually doesn't work all the time, right? And I've gotten to a lot of situations, but the learning has been the same, or rather, I burnt my fingers the same way, and you learn when you burn your fingers, right? So I did realize that there is a big difference between being blunt and being straightforward, right? Straightforward, comes with a caveat. It says that you have to know what to speak and when to speak, right? That is what you learn when you're straightforward. You would speak your mind out, but you would speak it in the right forum with the right person. You'd reserve your opinion and hear the other person out. And more often than not, I have been able to manage my work by just listening to other people speak, right? When they tell me what they want or what is their expectation from us or from me, as a peer or as someone who's the level down, someone whom I'm reporting to, my manager comes and tells me this, or if I'm speaking to my downline, right? It's fairly simple. Just listen to them, right? What that does is it gives you a good idea about what they exactly want, and then you can customize a solution for them, right? Or you can find a middle path wherein you are like, I'm ready to come halfway and listen to what you're saying, and at the same time that person is also then ready to come halfway. But if you go hammer and tongs, like, this is what I want, what I have said is the truth, and this is what you have to accept. That's being blunt, and that's not being cognizant of the other person. So why would that other person reciprocate to you, right? And I've been in that situation multiple times, and that's one of the first things that I learned is just keep quiet, listen to the other person, understand their situation, and then you'll have a fair idea of whether you can do something or you can't do something. Is it against your principle, not against your principles, to kind of listen to them or not, right? But listen to them out, right? And then take an informed decision. It's very, very important.
So basically, you suggest that the people who are viewing this right now at this particular moment, probably they are they are employees or they're students who are just starting off their career. So basically, your suggestion is that try to be an active listener when you get into an organization, rather than being a person that because in college basically you have that kind of thing that you have to speak a lot.
Yeah.
But then listen. So basically, when the table is turned around, when you actually get into corporate, that time the most important part is that you have to be an active listener. So
right,
have a fair communication process.
Correct. And take the time, right? You don't have to say a yes or no immediately, right?
Correct.
Certain situations will demand it, but 80% of the times you can ask for time, right? Like, for example, if you say that, hey, I want to leave the organization, I want to go to another one, right? Your manager will come and tell you that, hey, we have this opportunity for you. In 6 months, we will get you that same amount of salary. We will get you the promotion that you want, which you're getting right now with the new company, right? What people will be like, no, I'm getting it right now. Let me kind of go over. Of course, that's what 90% of the people are going to do, right? But you don't have to say that right away, right? You can just tell, can I just take a day's time to think about this and come back to you? What you're doing is you're respecting that other person's thought process. You're respecting that other person's offer, respecting that other person, basically, point blank, right? And what that does is then that person also knows that, you're going to think about it, and you will think about it, right?
Of course, yes.
And then when you come back to that person and then you say a no, which they know that you're going to say a no, right? But then you say a no, at least you've given them the time to kind of also process that you may say no to them, right? But if you say no on their face, right? No, I'm going, right? Then it automatically, then they'll be like, okay, so why? Then after that, people will expect, oh, can I have my notice period bought out? Can you waive off? Can I get extra leaves?
Correct.
That's when your managers will be like, why? Why should I do that? Right? So it's as simple as that. If you want something, you have to do something for other people. Right? Even when it's your friends in college, you do that. Right? So it's the same logic over here.
But it's more towards more professional manner rather than
correct
what we have in basic college. Perfect. That moving on to the next question then, please, is how do you stay updated with the latest trends and developments in the field of communication?
One of the simplest things that I can tell anyone is you need to read, right? There's a lot of reading that's required. You can't just go about with expecting that you speak to friends and you'll get that information magically. Doesn't happen. One of the best sources that we have of lately in India is YouTube channels, right? There is a lot of content on YouTube, and if you just randomly, and which most of us do nowadays, right? We watch YouTube shorts or you watch YouTube
Yes.
videos till we fall asleep, right? And if
100.
you keep going somewhere down that path, if you keep, you'll read something which is interesting, which is something to do with technology or something to do with, something new that's coming across. That should pique your curiosity. Like, first thing you need to have is a lot of curiosity that I want to learn, right? So when that piques my curiosity, I will then go and start reading up or searching up on Google or on Wikipedia. Like, Wikipedia is like my go-to for a lot of things, right? It has a plethora of information that you can just dive into, and you can spend years on it, and you would still not understand some bits and
Yeah.
pieces. But it's a good path, because the language there is also pretty much in it's quite polished. It's not that what do you say? It's professional, right? So that helps. So Wikipedia, Google gives a lot of information to that you can search on, but you need to, like, YouTube is one of the best ways to kind of at least get that first introduction to whatever that you want to learn about. In my case, I want to understand how to train better or how to deliver better. There'll be someone who will say, there'll be some article or something that comes across, and then I'll start searching for it and researching for it, and then read. So there's a lot of reading that I like to do in my free time. And random articles. I will not stick myself to the articles that I want to read about. Like, for example, if I like to watch videos about movie reviews, right? I will not just keep searching for it. I will just sometimes let the autoplay function work on YouTube, right? What that does is gives me something which is interesting. Like, that's how I learned about ChatGPT, right?
Yes, right.
And I got to try out ChatGPT around a good year ago, right? And now you see there's an explosion around it. I heard it on a YouTube channel, some short, ChatGPT is awesome, AI, and I went into it and all that stuff, right? So, one, just don't stick to the videos that you want to search for. Sometimes YouTube will algorithms will give you that particular information. So,
Correct.
Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you have to search for it. Yeah.
Majority of the students are basically, we also go to colleges and train people on communication, on the process of getting hired in a company. But we usually found that they have those mentors which are really professional mentors. Like, you are a beginner and you are following someone who's a really professional in his or her work. So
Right.
there is a huge gap when it comes to getting the information. So basically the students think that just because this person is that way, okay, so we should follow. But usually I found it very conversative in different manner, because I believe that if you're a beginner, then get a mentor who will help you to come out of the beginning process,
Right.
rather than being someone who's really an experienced person, because
Right.
to climb that particular ladder, he's traveled a lot of journeys.
True.
People miss out those kind of journeys, and they just follow something which what they see on this particular screen.
Right.
So basically, your recommendation really helps students to understand. So basically, to summarize that, get into the Wikipedia, get into the first sort of interest
Right.
you want to create. First of all, have an interest, build something that you can read on,
Right.
like those materials, and then basically the communication process will be starting.
Correct. And if you're talking about even communications to add on, right, you will need to speak in that language that you want to be fluent in. So there are people who might be learning German. You need to interact with someone in German, right? That's how you will learn that language. If it's English that you want to do, then you make that attempt. Obviously, your set of friends that are going to be who are there with you will have similar aspirations, right? So it's best that you speak with them in English. It might be broken English, but that's okay, right? One fine day, one of you will get up and tell you, oh, this is not how you pronounce it, this way, right? And then you keep learning through your friends. And this is the best way to do it. Instead of speaking in your native tongue, speak in the language that you want to be fluent in, right? Obviously, I'm not discounting that your native tongue should be left aside. Your native language is something that you should speak and interact with. But if you want to build something, at least give that effort to it. So you need to spend that time, right?
100%. Totally agree with you, Blaze, on this. So let's move on to another question. So what do you recommend to our students to improve their communication skills?
So kind of circling back to what I just said, right? You need to interact with people in the language that you want to be fluent in. I was not extremely fluent in English when I started off, right? you and I come from the same place, right? So you know
Right.
how, the kind of folks that we had.
Yes.
We would interact primarily in the local language, and that was okay, right? It was not something that I'm ashamed of even today, right? I'm proud of where I come from and the kind of people I interacted with, right?
Correct.
But that said, I needed to kind of build that bit. So when I started interacting at work, earlier we used to have this rule on the production floor that you have to speak only in English, right?
Correct.
I took that seriously, right? I know it was restrictive, that I couldn't speak in any other language, but I took that seriously. What that did is it helped me understand the language better. And then when I got into the training community, my peers or people who are experienced than me were speaking amazing English, right? And I kept interacting with them. So step one, start speaking in that language. Step two, find someone who can enhance your skill, right?
Perfect. Yes.
And of course, as you read, you'll find new words, you'll find better ways to communicate, and you will start implementing it in your day-to-day life. It's not going to happen overnight. If you want to be a good communicator, then you need to start at least 6 months in advance so that you are somewhere there. So if you're going to give your interview, say a year down the road, I would recommend start now, right? So that in a year's time, you will be a long way away, ahead with respect to how you are communicating from what you started off with.
100%. And just another question attached to the same link that we are discussing on is what do you think, according to you, still we are living in this particular century where the information is freely available to us and things are on. But do you think that, still communication, there are students who are lacking in the industry that, since you're hiring so many people in your industry as well?
Yeah. There is a gap, right? In today's day and age, most organizations find it difficult to hire the right talent, primarily because the communication is not on par, and then they invest in some sort of training to ensure that your communication is up to the level. More often than not, the time frame that you get to learn this is very minimal. We know for a fact, and it's a known thing in any corporate environment which deals with anything to do with communicating with international clients, or that it is extremely difficult to train someone or change someone's language in a 1 to 2 weeks time. Not going to happen, right? We will make you aware at best at where you are lacking, but beyond that, you need to put in the effort. What usually tends to happen is employees come in, they get selected, they go through that training, the communications training, and then they go into process training and they start their work. So they are like, okay, I'm through with. They think it's a stage. I've cleared the stage, so now I'm passed. Yeah, but what you need to understand is you are just passed. More often than not, you need to still work on it, right? So that in the next organization, you don't have to go through that entire stress of relearning everything. So start practicing. If you get through in a good company, start interacting in that language. You will get better in that 1 year or 2 years that you spend in that organization. So when you go to the next organization, you have come a level up.
Correct. So basically, there's a huge gap that basically we found in communication as well, because even I go and train, I find students are still not prepared for that kind of an interview, which can give them the kind of hike what they basically want in their job profile, what they're actually looking at. So in spite of the fact that we have so much of information with us, and so much of things which were actually available now, which weren't there when we started off the journey. I know the way we started off by reading newspapers and getting into conversations which are like people are talking in English, getting into debate conversations just to learn things out.
Right. And then even ask them, what did you say and what did that mean? Right? It's like what did you say? Sorry, what does that mean? What does that word mean? Right? So in the middle of a heated debate, you are kind of asking someone what does that mean, and you are speaking against that person's point of view, right? So you're accepting defeat in a way in a debate. If everyone knows how a debate goes, so it's like you're arguing in someone, you're debating with someone, and then you tell them, oh, sorry, Atul, what did you just say? Can you just repeat that? And what does that mean? Right? And then you have to then defend that point.
Defend that point, correct?
So yeah, I know.
That's correct. That time was totally a different era that we actually lived in. We didn't have that kind of information what today's generation have. I mean, they have everything on their fingertips.
Oh,
We had to actually dig into information, get into those cyber cafes to find information. Those days were totally different. But over the less that today's contact, just wanted to summarize a couple of things that all the students who are watching at this moment, right in point in time, that even Blaze is here, I'm there with you. The point is that the industry is still lacking. I mean, Blaze belongs to an industry where communication is the number one priority in all across. And in spite of the fact that his 18 years of experience has taught him a lot of things, and out of which he had actually taken a lot of time for us to discuss something which were the industry standards, what we require. So students, please gear up in terms of understanding things. There's a huge gap between your degrees, that engineering degrees or management degrees that you're getting, and what the industry wants from you. So he's still finding it difficult for some candidates to actually get selected as well. I believe you agree with me, Blaze, on this, that
oh yeah.
still there is a lot of
On an average, I can tell you in most organizations, out of we run at a and this is just ballpark figure, right? I'm not quoting numbers, but I know the numbers that I've kind of
Mhm.
out of the 100 people that we hire, we usually end up selecting best case 60% of them on communication, right? Which means 40% will not get selected, right? And then after that, then you have other rounds, which will then
Correct.
filter out more people. So it's if I want to get say 20 people on board, I will easily interview 300, 400 people. At least the teams will interview that many number of people to get that 20 people on board, right?
All
And
right.
that's primarily the skill, right? It's nothing
That's
else.
that's a huge number of difference. 300 people for 20 people. It's something which is, so that is basically good in terms of that there is demand for this
Oh yes,
particular role. There's a
there's a
huge demand
lot
for
of
this.
demand. Yeah, and in India specifically, there's a lot of demand, right? A lot of organizations are hiring, and it might not be just the tech part of it. I know the tech world is going through some changes at this moment,
Mhm.
right? So which would mean a lot of young professionals would look at different fields,
Mhm.
including contact centers, possibly. Right? I don't know. It depends on what their requirement is. If money is a
Right.
requirement, they would choose that, like I did. Right?
Right.
Then you need to kind of up your game because there it's whatever you've learned in books is good. But you can also you need to kind of up your game because once you spend some time here, when you go back to your own field of your choice,
Mhm.
you'll be a much better communicator and you'll ensure that you'll just crack or you'll breeze through compared to most of the people who don't implement these small things.
Correct. So moving on to the same question, that you have asked earlier, Blaze, on the same thing that we have to continue. So basically, this is one of the most important question that usually comes in any perspective from an industry expert, is that what do you actually look into a candidate, before hiring him or her?
See, there are three things when we look at any candidates or
Mhm.
whenever we rather let me take a step back. When you're building a job profile, there are three
Okay.
things that someone looks at, right? One is knowledge,
Mhm.
second is skill, and the third is attitude,
Okay.
right? Knowledge, more often than not, people bring onto the table from what they've learned from their
Mhm.
education. In some cases, you need to kind of give them that knowledge. So if it's a new process, it's something to do with a different country or a different client, then you have to tell them that clients the knowledge bit is built. Skill is how well you can do that job, right? And communication, like you said, is a part of it. That's something that they have to kind of look at building.
Mhm.
And of course we'll also help them build on how to use the various tools which are there. That's also part of the skill, right? How do you implement whatever you've learned in your day-to-day work? Is that's something that people coach, and we have usually organizations have a good coaching mechanism to kind of fix this apart from training. And the final thing is the attitude, right? And this is where there's a lot of challenges also that we tend to look at, right?
Mhm.
People come with the if someone doesn't come with the right attitude, companies would not want to kind of invest in them, right? Some
Okay.
would, if they're in dire need or whatever it is, they will do that for the time being. But if someone has a really, really bad attitude, right, they will not invest because attitude is the one thing that is internal that you bring onto the table.
Correct.
So how you make changes to that part of it? See, like I said, the more you read, the more you kind of research on things, you will know how corporate works, and then you'll automatically start building that attitude, right?
Mhm.
So off the bat, you may not be as polished, and that may be one of the reasons why you may have got rejected. Apart from the skill, they'll be like, "Oh, I don't like the way this person answered this question." When someone
Okay.
says that, it means that they did not like the attitude that he brought onto the table. It doesn't mean the attitude that we speak in college terms.
Mhm.
This person has attitude. No, not that. It's the kind of mental makeup,
Okay.
what value system you bring into the system, how would you interact, or how you're going to do that's your value system, right? And that is the part of that attitude that we're talking about, and that takes time to change. So organizations will not spend a lot of time, uh, especially if it's a non-fresher role, right? So you worked in one organization, you're coming to the next one. That's where they will look at this. You're coming from one organization where you place as a fresher. The expectation is that you bring that corporate attitude into your current role also. And when they find that lacking, they will choose not to invest in you,
All
right?
right.
So that's one bit that I think these are three things that we look at,
Interesting.
right? And if it's attitude, someone doesn't have it, it's even if they have the knowledge skill, sometimes we don't take people on board just because they don't have the right attitude that we want, right?
In spite of they having the best communication, like they can speak fluent English and all that,
Correct.
but if they don't have the right attitude, then it is
Correct.
just no.
Because they will not acclimatize to the culture of that organization, right? Because they will be like, oh, I have a certain way of working, I'm not going to change that. And I'm not saying going against principles, something illegal as such, is general corporate etiquette, right? They will see that an next person will not be able to adapt to the etiquette or the expectations in that organization. So they will be like, hey, I'm not going to take this person on board. I will take someone with a lesser skill, because it's easier to build a skill than to change someone's attitude. So, example, if there's an employee who has not put in the effort in good communication skills, right? When he's going to the next, he brings that to the table, right? Like, I don't want to learn.
Okay.
Right? So then they'll be like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to invest, because I'll have to first convince him that you have to learn because it's important for your role, and then I'm going to invest the time. That's a lot of time, right? And nobody has the time.
So this is something which was, really interesting that you mentioned that, apart from having, this is for the people who still think that, okay, fine, I can speak fluent English, I have the same processes, but if you don't have the right attitude, then things might, go wrong in your way. That is something what the input that you're getting from this. So thank you once again, Blaze. Thank you so much for this. Thank you.
Thanks.
Perfectly said, Blaze. I'm, seriously, it was an eye opener for all of us to know that there is a 60-40% gap still, in spite of the fact having all the information with us and, everything is given to us. Still, there is a huge gap which the industry wants. And, I would request all the students who are watching at the moment, please gear up. If there's a person who's an 18 years experience who's telling you there is a huge demand when it comes to communication as a process. So try and implement whatever strategies and tools that he's shared with all of us. And I would really like to thank from bottom of my heart, Blaze. Thank you so much for coming and joining us, and please, and letting us know that some of your inputs were really amazing. And I hope and pray that all the students who are watching at the moment will implement what you have actually said in this particular podcast. Thank you so much once again, Blaze. Really happy.
No, it was a pleasure. The pleasure is all mine. I'm glad to know that you're doing something like this. This is going to help a lot of, kids start their career. And that's ample. I think, we didn't have that kind of help. So the fact that you're doing this, is going to make a lot of difference to quite a few folks. And I think that's a good thing that you're doing, Atul. So, and to be a part of it in a small way that I'm doing today is the honor is all mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Blaze. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.